For 2 months, Canadians saved the tax on children's toys, clothes, gifts, video game consoles, books, prepared food at grocery stores, and while dining out at bars and restaurants. But the federal government's GST and HST break comes to an end this weekend. A good time then to check in with Richard Alexander, Executive Vice President of Government Relations and Public Affairs at Restaurants Canada. Richard, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Has this tax break been a success in your opinion? Have people spent more at restaurants since December 15th than they would have without the tax break?
Absolutely. This GST HST holiday has increased demand in restaurants, depending on which indicator you look at, whether it's open table reservations, consumer dining index, the Bonaris point of sale terminals. We're looking at anywhere between a 7.5 up to a 23% increase in restaurant traffic. And that's resulted in an increase in our workforce by about 6% during this time. So for the restaurant industry, it's been an absolutely incredible tax break. It's worked very well.
What happens now if we say that the tax relief has measurably changed the way people spend at restaurants? Does it follow that seeing, that tax line on our receipts once again will stop us then from dining out? And, if we add to that the uncertainty of a trade war with the US, what is your outlook for the industry now?
Yeah, so it's exactly that. Once the tax goes back on, it makes food more expensive, and that's going to hurt Canadians. So we're faced with some of the highest food costs in Canada right now that the country has ever had. And we have Donald Trump threatening tariffs on our food supply from the States. And that's going to drive up costs again. Why on earth would our government want to make food more expensive by putting the tax back on? It's there, it's working. In our restaurant industry alone, it's created 67,500 more jobs, good paying jobs that people use to pay rent and feed their families. So it would be unconscionable for a government to go back and make food more expensive at this time. The whole root of this discussion, I think, people can avoid having to buy a new car during a trade war or, in times of affordability crisis. But you can't avoid having to pay for food. Food is special. Food is a necessity of life. So taxing food, I believe, for the majority of Canadians, just seems wrong. What we saw when the GST came on back in 1991 was there was an immediate drop in spending in the restaurant industry by about 10%. And a study from Ernst & Young showed that about 7% of that was related to the GST holiday. So it put our industry at a very big disadvantage. So, your mom and pop restaurants that you love to visit, they are put at a disadvantage when grocery gets, tax-free, but restaurants don't, and we get more money going to the big grocers and less to your little mom and pop operations. So there's a real disparaging impact on this tax policy in Canada.
On the tariff front, of course, we have that 30-day break. Obviously, Donald Trump has already acted even within the period of that break. What is the expectation? Who is hit first and who perhaps bears the brunt of it in the restaurant industry?
Well, I mean, consumers know that the cost of everything, that all food has gone up. In Canada and the United States, our food manufacturing and supply chains are incredibly integrated. So we have situations where, wheat grown in Saskatchewan crosses the border, is processed, and it comes back across the border to be turned into hamburger buns in Canada. Everything that you consume is a mixture of both American and Canadian production, and it's been like that for 20 years. So when these tariffs come on, every time that product crosses back and forth the border, we could potentially see 25% the tariff put on that, and that's going to make it very, very expensive for Canadians. Why put taxes on something that's going to be incredibly expensive and is a necessity of life? Government needs to get rid of this GST permanently on food, any kind of food.
All right, that is Richard Alexander of Restaurants Canada. Thanks so much for your time today, Richard.